Are you a new real estate investor and you're still struggling to get your first deal because you just don't have the money for the funding? Or are you a wholesaler and you have collected some assignment fees, but there's some deals you want to stay in and you haven't been able to stay in the deals because you don't have the money to fund those deals? Or are you a seasoned real estate investor and you just want more money and funding to do more deals without relying on traditional lenders? Well, if you answered yes to any of those three questions, don't go anywhere because I'm getting ready to plug you into the money. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Private Money Academy podcast. I'm Jay Conner, your host, also known as the Private Money Authority, and we want to welcome you, especially if this is your first time to tuning in, or if you've been with us before, you know we have amazing guests and experts that join me here on the show. Well, today is no exception, but before I introduce my special guest today, just for showing up here on the show, I have got a free gift for you. And here it is, my book that was just recently released. The name of it is Where to Get the Money Now, subtitle, How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. So listen, folks, this book is free. Just cover a couple of bucks for shipping. We'll rush it right out to you. And in this book, you will learn and I will reveal to you the 5 easy steps it takes to get millions of dollars in private money and how to get it very, very quickly. This has got nothing to do with borrowing money from banks or institutions or traditional lenders. This is all about getting private money. So again, if you're a newbie, a wholesaler, or a seasoned real estate investor, this book is for you. Right after the show, go right on over to www.jayconner.com/book. And we'll rush this right out to you. Again, that's www.jayconner.com/book, BOOK, and we'll rush Where to Get the Money Now right out to you. Well, my special guest today, first of all, a big thank you and salute to him. He's actually a former infantry officer, and he was in the United States Marine Corps. And what experience he had. He commanded at the platoon levels, at the company level, and actually he served 2 tours over in Afghanistan. What an education he's got. He's got a BS in Aeronautical Engineering at the United States Naval Academy, also an MS in Applied Physics from Johns Hopkins University. He and his wife and kids are down in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, now today, the reason we have him on the show is because he's with a very, very interesting company. In fact, he's the brainchild behind it. He is the Chief Growth Officer at a company called PadSplit. PadSplit, that's PadSplit. And in short, here's what PadSplit is, but our guest is going to tell us a lot more about it. It's a housing company that actually focuses on providing affordable houses. And that ties right back into my background from years ago when I was in the manufactured housing industry. So right now, PadSplit has got over 1,700 units, and this has all come about in just the past 3.5 years. And these units include single family houses and also multifamily properties as well. Now, PadSplit also increases yield by more than 100% for property owners by using existing housing stock as shared housing. What I just said may not make sense to you, but you're going to learn what it means here in just a second. Well, PadSplit was founded in 2017 and has already raised $14.6 million in the capital. And it was also named one of the top 10 tech companies in Georgia as well. With that, welcome to the show as my special guest, Mr. Frank Furman. Frank, welcome to the show.
Jay, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. So, Frank, now I know my audience still doesn't know what PadSplit is. so
it's all good.
So pull the curtain back and in very, very simple terms, for my sake at least, Tell us what PadSplit is and what it's all about and what's its purpose and its mission and all that.
Got it. So what we are at PadSplit, we're a marketplace platform. So think like Airbnb, but instead of being fractional in terms of time, so one occupancy, another occupancy, another, we're fractional in terms of space, right? So it's room rentals. And so, a lot of times people look at it and say, oh, I kind of get it. Maybe I should, I'll ask my kids, young people to understand. I say, no, ask your grandmother, because this is how working singles used to live in the United States, and to a large extent still do today. The concept of, someone getting their start, or, someone who's working in kind of manufacturing or security guard or in fast food or what have you, having their own apartment with all the kind of lease obligations and expenses that entails is kind of a new construct. So, so really it's about bringing a thing that already exists that, around in every metro area and democratizing and making more accountable and making more widespread. So what it looks like is, it's a workforce housing company. And so on the one side of the market is landlords, property owners who want to increase their yield. They want to do well by doing good. And on the other side are the residents who are, again, the people who work in our communities and are looking for a good value on an inexpensive place to live. But it's a shared housing company in that regard.
So, for example, let's say that I am someone that is needing affordable housing. And I can't afford the mortgage payment or whatever to, buy a house, or I can't afford the rent on, say a single family house or whatever. So how do I, as a user, as a renter, if you will, how do I share the space logistically with other people?
Yeah, so similarly to if you've ever been in a student housing arrangement, or if you think Golden Girls a little bit. So the bedrooms are private, so it's singles, one bedroom, and what's shared are the rest of the parts of the house or apartment. So kitchen, oftentimes the bathroom. Now, a big part of what we do on the technology side, and certainly on the customer support side, is making that side of it work, right? The payment processing and all that, is maintenance tickets, all that's relatively straightforward. But we have a whole kind of investment on the side of, okay, how do you worry about the cleanliness of the house? Kind of who does what, chore wheel, that sort of thing. But yeah, think of it as renting a bedroom and sharing common areas.
Okay, well, actually, the example you just gave made it really, really easy to understand. So you said it's like compared to student housing. So like with student housing, well, tell everybody how student housing works in case, somebody needs some clarification.
So, the way that a lot of student housing works is, now legally it may be a little bit different. Oftentimes there's a co-signer, or you have a bunch of students who are coming together signing on the same lease. For us, they're individual people, individual contracts, but it's about moving strangers in together, right? They're not all students in our case. They may be someone who works at this Starbucks, and maybe someone who works, at this manufacturing center, distribution center. But it's strangers are moving in together with individual contracts. But oftentimes student housing, which is oftentimes custom built, will have individual bedrooms surrounding, called a suite typically, surrounding a common area where we might have the couch and the TV, and I don't know where kids play beer pong. Again, I went to the Naval Academy, so we didn't have any of this nonsense. We were in the barracks, but I hear about it. But yeah, that's the idea. Is you have maybe 4 or 6 bedrooms in student housing, and you share the common area in the middle.
Gotcha. So as far as PadSplit goes, one side of the company are the users or the renters, and another side of the company are your investors that are helping you and your company acquire more properties, right?
Exactly.
So, well, let's talk about the renters and the users a little bit, and then let's talk about the investment opportunity and what the investment side of it looks like. But first of all, before we do that, let's first talk about, I'm thinking you saw an opportunity to solve a problem. Most of us are not in business unless we're solving problems. And so you must have seen an opportunity to solve a problem, and therefore you came up with this idea of PadSplit. So tell us the story, how you even came up with this idea and what problem does it fix?
Sure. Well, I think first I want to give credit where credit is due. So my co-founder or CEO, Atticus, he's also my brother-in-law, so I've known for some time. He's when you call me the brainchild, I sort of chuckle because the credit goes to him for that. But he got to start in real estate. He was living in Atlanta, and was a commercial broker in 2007, so kind of pre-crash, but kind of lived through that. And he's looking around and seeing all these houses for sale for really cheap, post-crash, kind of 2008, 2009. So he was buying them up, building a portfolio, and like things, he kind of stumbled into it. Bought a house in Southwest Atlanta, and two neighbors came by, Mr. Otis and Mr. Mitch, and they said, "Hey man, our house is being foreclosed on. You've got this house. We're renting rooms in this one. We want to rent rooms in yours." And it's like, no thanks. I'm going to rent this out through the housing authority. Appreciate it, but I don't really know what a rooming house is. No thanks. And they're like, "Hey man, we'll pay you $100 a week." And he looks at it and he thinks, gosh, 4 bedrooms, $100 a week, or I get 800 from the housing authority. So he gave it a try and did another one in 2012, and kind of, I built up a large portfolio of single family homes and apartments. And this was always kind of a thing in the background. But over the intervening years, what he noticed was much more profitable, and they serve a need that is really hard for other housing providers to serve. What's that for that income demographic that's, people who are working full time, but can't really afford market rents. And the way to think about it for investors on the podcast are, typically as a landlord, you want, you're asking for 3 times income as rent, or 3 times rent as income. And, you think about it, someone's making $25,000 a year, if they're making $20 an hour, what are they qualifying for? A couple $100 a month, $600 a month. There are no apartments available for $600 a month. And that's before you get into security deposit and utilities to turn on, or deposits to turn on utilities. And, realistically, to set up your own apartment, furnish it, all that, you really need to have, $3,000 or $4,000 typically in out-of-pocket expenses. And okay, for those who can do it, that's just all well and good. But I don't think it takes a genius to, or any great insight to know that there's millions, tens of millions of Americans who are in a position where they don't have $4,000 to their name to get set up, and certainly not because if they have to pay for an apartment. So how do you kind of lower the barrier to entry, still maintaining high standards on underwriting, collections rates? Obviously that's our business, but how do you really kind of make it work for this, not small sliver of the population, but really enormous unmet need in the market?
Gotcha. Well, and that's certainly true. I mean, if these people aren't having a place to go rent like you and your company are providing, it's like, I guess they're staying home with mama and daddy or grandmama or uncle or cousins or sisters or brothers or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a whole host of things. I mean, you figure, we talk about, imagining someone who's working full time but is functionally homeless, right? What does that mean? Maybe they drive till they qualify. Maybe they work in Atlanta, but they commute from an hour and a half away or 2 hours away because that's how far you have to go to get a place you can afford. Or they crash on someone's couch or sleep in their cars. Certainly if you go to a lot of big cities, you see a lot of people who are doing that. Sleep at the airport, and these are people who are working. So obviously, people can hold down a job, they can put in the hours, and our conviction is that we as a society and as an investor, group of investors should be able to provide a product that works.
So let's talk some numbers for a second. So let's say, of course, let's just use your area because your area, like the single family houses that you have right now that make up part of the 1,700 units. Give us an example of one of the properties that you've got that if you were just renting it out traditionally, give us a description of what this house looks like. And this can be just like one of your typical single family houses. Square footage, number of beds and baths. What would it typically rent out just on the traditional rental market? And in contrast to that now, with it being fractionalized with, multiple renters inside the same property. How much does that property, cash flow under this model compared to the traditional model?
It's a great question. Actually, it shows you to some extent how quickly we're growing. That we're now over 2,500 units. So just in the time, maybe it's pretty hard to book time on your show. That we've had a lot of time to do it, but yeah, we're up over 2,500 units now. But yeah, the way to think about it is, take one of our original insights is that for the, typically rental properties tend to be relatively small because they're, cheaper to maintain, a little less space, there's less demand for the larger sized houses. But a lot of these houses exist, that are, say, 4 bedrooms, call it more than 1,600 square feet, just to think of the housing stock. So oftentimes it's houses that have underutilized space. So maybe it's a basement or a garage or a big dining room or a big living room where as an investor, you don't get paid for that space. You don't get paid for the dining room, and for us, you get paid for the bedroom. So how do you kind of capture and monetize that underutilized space? So again, starting with a house that's maybe 3 or 4 bedrooms and call it 1,600 square feet plus, maybe it's in a transition neighborhood or, close to public transit, maybe it rents for $1,700 a month traditionally, or even say $2,000 a month. Okay, great. As a traditional rental, you're renting it out, you think you're doing okay, paying some maintenance, paying your property manager 10%, hey, that's a good investment. You're maybe clearing, $1,500 before your note. Hey, that's pretty good. Our view is you take that 4-bedroom house and maybe you take the living room or the dining room or a basement and turn it to 6 or 7 bedrooms, right? So you're capturing and monetizing that underutilized space. Well, you're renting it out by the room. Your rooms are your revenue generating units. And so, our average prices, you're talking, between $600 and $700 a month, kind of all in with utilities. So again, much less than the cost of an apartment and more flexible. So great value for the renter. But again, and I am a former Marine, so making me do math in public is a little bit harsh, but $600 a month, 7 bedrooms, that's over $4,000 a month. Now, look, you're paying utilities on the property. You're paying PadSplit. We've got our fee. That's a cut of revenue. I got those kids. We got to pay. They eat. We got to pay for them somehow. Again, you're paying your property manager. You have expenses, but again, going from $2,000 in gross rents over $4,000, that's the magic, right? So even net of expenses, you're typically clearing about double the net operating income, and that's kind of why investors work with us. Now, many do because they say, hey, they have a conviction the way that we do that people who work in our community should be able to live in our communities. Okay, that's wonderful, but the numbers have to work, and that's really one of our original insights was, we have this affordable housing crisis in our country, but it's a supply problem in that if you can make the yields work, if you can make it as profitable or more profitable than market rate housing, well, then you don't have a problem because you're tapping into the capital and the intellect and the energy and creativity of the investors, private investors in the market. So if you can make that happen, the supply fixes itself.
Got you. So let's talk about the investor side. So let's say we've got audience members here that would be interested in investing and get a really nice, return and yield. What does that look like on that side, on the investor side?
So the way that people do it, and we've investors across the spectrum, from retail investors who are new to investing in real estate, but just want to try something new, to institutional operators who own thousands and thousands of homes and are perhaps generating a higher yield on their part that's with PadSplit. The first step is easy though. It's going to our website, padsplit.com, signing up as a host. Our sales team will reach out and really kind of walk people through the process. And the reason for that is that it is a little bit different from operating a traditional rental, right? It's not rocket science, but all the steps are a little bit different. You're looking for a different kind of assets. We've partnered with brokers and agents in several markets to help you think through your buy box. Same thing on the renovation and staging. They're furnished units. Okay, it's not hard, but it's a little bit of a aspect. And even another side of it. Again, we've done this on hundreds and hundreds of homes, and utilities are a good example where most landlords don't think about utilities because they don't pay the bills. And most tenants don't think about it, the property, because they don't know, right? They're not going to make CapEx investments. But in our model, those incentives are aligned. You as the landlord want to drive down the utility costs because that's coming out of your bottom line. So really simple, thinking through kind of passive investments like smart thermostats that are locked with a pin. Now you control HVAC, that's most of the energy bill, or low flow fixtures like low flow shower heads to drive down your water bill, that really make it much, much more profitable. So that's what our team is trained to do with investors, is walk them through this process, and oftentimes even pre-acquisition, to say, hey, Jay, you've brought me this property at 123 Main Street. It's on a cul-de-sac. It'll be really tight with parking. Let's look for a better one where you'll have a better experience and better return. Oh, hey, this one is a corner lot close to public transit. I love it. That'll be great. And kind of go from there. So we kind of walk you through, can oftentimes refer, general contractor or property manager if those aren't queued up for you, to make it as easy as possible. And we are actually even now selling turnkey properties through an affiliated fund for investors who really want to kind of push the easy button.
Gotcha. So just to make sure everybody understands, what you and PadSplit are offering is, you're not looking for people to just invest money with PadSplit. You're looking for investors that already have properties that they may want to use this strategy on increasing their gross revenue. Is that right?
Either or. We work with both. We work with investors who already have a portfolio of single family rentals, and we'll go through and say, hey, this one, you're already at highest and best use, keep it as a traditional rental or as an Airbnb. But hey, this one that's maybe bigger, or, you struggle with, or what have you, we think you can, go from a 5 cap to a 10. Let's talk through that. Or in many cases, we work with investors to say, I'm interested. I don't own any properties that would fit. Let's go buy some. And we help you through that process.
Okay, excellent. So you've got the opportunity with PadSplit for people to just invest in PadSplit, right? And if those that already have properties, maybe look for a way to maximize revenue, right?
Absolutely.
All right, excellent. So, what an interesting concept. I believe that. Have y'all got any projections as to how big you're going to get and how quick? Because you're growing pretty fast.
They don't make computer programs strong. No, I'm just kidding. It's we're very ambitious. We started this company with the idea that it has to be big. We wanted to build this thing into a nationwide company that helps hundreds of thousands of people. So there's no way about it. Today we're primarily located in the Southeast. We're kind of Texas through Florida, through kind of Virginia, and a little bit in the Midwest. We'd like to be coast to coast. Again, we're over 2,500 units today. We'd like to be 10,000 by the end of next year. That's we're, in our mind, we should be. There's such an enormous unmet need for this product in the market. And we joke a lot of times, obviously our marketing team does wonderful things to find folks and screen them and get them through that funnel. But, if we added 10,000 units tomorrow, they'd panic a bit, but we could fill them, because there's, for better or for worse, just an enormous shortage of affordable units in the country. So really we're in a supply constrained market, and which is why we're, enjoying opportunities like this to reach out to investors who are interested in solving a problem and also want to get paid for it. They want to generate a yield, as they should as investors. So we came at this from a real estate investor focus. That's our backgrounds. And, so we know that part of it has to work.
So if a real estate investor that's listening to the show here has got, some houses or a portfolio of houses, or they just want to, take a look at converting some of their houses, is part of the service that PadSplit offers is actually helping the real estate investor market their houses and find renters for this usage?
Exactly. That's really our core offering. So again, similar to the way to think about it is similar to Airbnb in that they're listed on our platform, but we do all of the marketing and lease up for the properties to get people moved in and booked. And we do all of the screening and background check, credit check, income verification, employment verification, all that's done and part of the process.
Got you. So PadSplit actually actually makes the decision for the real estate investor as to whether this person should be accepted as a renter or not, right?
Right. We do that upfront screening. Yeah.
Got you. And y'all collect the money?
That's correct. We do. And we run all of the collections. So if people are behind or late fees, we do all that. And the way to think about it is, if you have that house that's 7 bedrooms, we bill weekly because, again, one of our early insights in the way that we built the business was a lot of landlords aren't very customer focused, right? You bill on the first because it's easy for your lender. It's easy for your, it's easy for the bank. It's easier for your accounting team. But it isn't that easy for renters, right? Because, today, what day is it? Okay, well, I know that it's Tuesday. When's Friday? Okay, I get paid on Friday. I get billed on Friday. But when's the first of the month? I have no idea. So it's all about making it simple for people to pay. And we work through, it's all electronic payments, but with auto pay features and all that. But the idea is, how do you have more of a customer focus to make it as easy as possible? But again, weekly payments, 7 bedrooms, you might have 30 some payments in a month. We kind of bundle it all up together and then remit it in one easy payment to the landlord, so that, again, it's easy for accounting, easy for your lender, that kind of thing.
Well, when you got a renter that's not paying, who gets them out?
In many cases, we're able to do that remotely through our customer service team, and we have those conversations when it's, because, again, it happens, right? Especially in the pandemic and all sorts of things going on. Job churn is real. But if it comes down to it, occasionally it does come to a formal eviction process. Unfortunately, when things go south. So.
Well, the good news is, since you're collecting weekly, if there's a problem, you're going to know it a lot sooner than collecting monthly.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. We're definitely on top of people. It's not, they don't trust me with it at PadSplit. I'm I don't know, maybe too nice, but or not tenacious enough. But we have a team that's really keeps on top of people all the time.
Right. Well, another cool thing about billing weekly is, like, if you're just collecting monthly. Well, some months have got 4 weeks and some months have got 5 weeks. And so It's like you have like a built-in, maybe a little extra revenue thing there on the months that's got 5 weeks.
Exactly. I'm glad you picked up on that, because I don't know how many times I've worked with folks who are like, why is this month less than that month? What went wrong? And you're like, well, there's 4 weeks, 4 Sundays this month as opposed to 5. It's just it's the nature of it. So you're already set up to be a PadSplit host.
I love it. So now, one last question here, and that is, so let's say you have a real estate investor who's got a portfolio of houses, but it's in an area where nobody's ever heard of PadSplit. How would a new market of people find out about this PadSplit house or houses, to where, this affordable rent is there in a new area?
Absolutely. So let's say, for the sake of argument, one of the viewers of this show is sitting on 100 properties in Columbus, Ohio, and thinks, hey, this is going to be great. We're not in Columbus, Ohio just yet. We're very tied in with investors to make those launches go successfully. So we would do pre-market and get things prepped up. You can actually, we would make a big push for a new market. And we've launched 7 markets this year. So we've gone and, launched in several cities in Texas and Florida and gone from there. So we'd be very tied in to make it work. But it also means we're very intentional about the markets we choose. And we, for example, wouldn't want to go in with one property in Columbus, in part because I think it would be a suboptimal experience for the investor. Right. So there's network effects to having multiple properties, because there's options for the renters. But at the same time, you don't get the referrals and so on. But at the same time, it just wouldn't work as well. So we'd want to go in with a pipeline of properties so you can have successful outcomes for the investor, because that's our growth engine. When investors do well, they tell their friends, they brag about it, and they bring on more properties. So that's how we grow.
Well, it's a fascinating concept. And as I say, I see your company just growing like gangbusters here. Final comments, Frank, before we call this show a wrap. And one more time as to how people can stay connected with you?
Yeah, so I'm easy to find. I'm just Frank at PadSplit.com if you want to email me. But the best way is to just go to our website, as shown on the screen, create a host account, and one of our much friendlier and more knowledgeable sales staff will be calling on you to help you out and walk you through the entire process. So yeah, would love to work with you if you're interested. And yeah, again, we're looking to launch nationwide. So looking forward to it.
That's great. So everybody, so Frank Furman's the website for PadSplit is www.PadSplit, P as in Paul, A-D, split, SPLIT.com. PadSplit, be sure to get over there and check it out. Well, Frank, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay. I appreciate it.
All right, there you go. There you have it, folks. Another episode of the Private Money Academy podcast. And we really appreciate you subscribing so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. Be sure to rate and review. We love those 5-star ratings. So like us, share us, subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified every time that we go live. Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Private Money Academy podcast. I'm Jay Conner, wishing you all the best. Here's to taking your real estate investing business to the next level. And we'll see you right here on the next Private Money Academy podcast.